come to. They said, if you got this judge, I got that judge. Yeah, I was shocked. I got the right judge. I got one in New York that's beautiful. My wife's mother, who was an incredible woman, a great beauty inside and out, incredible woman, she just died. And my wife was very devastated by that. And had a trial going on, a fake trial, a totally fake trial. And we asked the judge if I could take a day off for a funeral of my mother-in-law, who was very close to me also. And he said, no. Can you imagine? These are animals. Can you imagine that, Nigel? That wouldn't even happen in your country, right? He said, no, we can't have a day off. These are bad people. These are radical left lunatics that want to hurt me because they think it's going to hurt me at the polls so that Biden can win an election. I don't think the people are going to fall for it. But think of that. Can I have a day off? I'd like to go to the... So my wife is going to be standing at the funeral of her mother, who was a very special woman. It's not like this was a very special, incredible woman. And so she's supposed to stand there alone. Now, I'll be there. One way or the other, I'll be there. But what a disgrace that a judge would not say, yes, we can take a day off. There's no rush. You know, all of these indictments, they could have done them 3 years ago. They saved them all for the election. Every one of them. I got one during Iowa. I got one during New Hampshire, the day before New Hampshire. I got every one of these. I have one, the same Chutkin, Judge Chutkin in Washington. The day before Super Tuesday, she wants the trial to start. The day before Super Tuesday, she says, no, it has something to do with politics. Every one of them is the day before Iowa, the day before New Hampshire, the day before Super Tuesday. No, these are rigged indictments. This is a rigged Department of Justice where we have radical left, bad people, lunatics, and we can't let it happen. We can't let it happen. So I'm going to that funeral, and this judge, whatever the hell he wants to do, let him do it. But we're going to that funeral. The disgrace. Can't take one day. They could have had these trials. They could have had that trial 6 months ago. But they didn't want to have them 6 months ago. They could have had the other one, the boxers hoax. They could have had that 2 years ago. They waited till just as soon as it was announced Trump is running and he's number one, they said, oh, let's go get him. They raided my home. Fourth Amendment, you can't do that. They raided my home. Think of it. They raided Mar-a-Lago. I get a call, sir, your house is under raid by the FBI. Think of it. Not allowed to do that. These are very bad people, very sick people. On day one, I will sign a new executive order to cut federal funding for any school, pushing critical race theory, transgender insanity, and other inappropriate racial, sexual, or political content on our children. And I will not give 1 penny to any school that has a vaccine mandate or mask mandate. And I can't believe that I have to say it, but I do, because it's such a big thing now. It's not believable that it's a big thing. Can you imagine saying it 10 years ago? Nobody would know what you're talking about. I will keep men out of women's sports. I will side men out of women's sports. I mean, I could ask Dan Gable, Dan, in your prime, do you think there was a woman that could out-wrestle you? I don't know. Tell yeah. He said, only his wife. Only Kathy. That's right. That's a perfect answer, actually. And I will fully uphold the Second Amendment, which is under siege, by the way. Which is under siege. As I did for 4 years, it's under siege. We will protect innocent life, and we will restore free speech, and I will secure our elections. We will go to paper ballots. We will have one-day voting, and we will have a thing called voter ID. They don't want voter ID. Why would you not want voter ID? Only one reason, because you want to cheat. Why would you, you have ID for everything, right? You go to the grocery store, you have ID. No matter what you do, you have ID, except for voting, which is the most important thing. No voter ID. When you went to the Democrat National Convention, they had like a board, like a billboard from outside with a chain. And it had pictures from all angles. It had everything. That was for the Democrat National Convention to get in. They had a thing that was terrible. The women were complaining it was so big you couldn't see their dress, okay? They'd spend all the time with their beautiful dress. and are sick of looking at voter ID. But now we want voter ID, but they don't want voter ID because they can't cheat with voter ID. It's much harder. They'll find a way, but it makes it much harder. You have to make it as hard as possible because that's the only way they can win. That's the only way they can win. They can't win on policy. They can't win on open borders. They can't win on raising the taxes. They can't win on woke education and a woke military. We have a great military, by the way. When we took out ISIS, they did it so great. Raising Cane, General Raising Cane. You know that. So I said, "What's your name, sir?" "Cane, sir." "What's your first name?" "Raisin." I said, "What?" "Raisin, sir." They called me Raisin. I said, "Your name is Raising Cane?" "Yes, sir." "I love you, General. You're the general I've been looking for," and he was great. He wiped them out so fast. He said, "I'll get it done in 4 weeks, sir." But we wiped out ISIS very quickly. We have a great military, but you have to have the right people, not the people you see on television, not the person that's laying right now in a hospital room that was missing for 5 days, and he's running the war with Yemen on his laptop, like a child, My young son uses laptops to have little war games, right? Like all of the kids. He's running it, but they didn't even know where he was. What happened to him? But until then, Republicans have to win. If you took the 10 worst presidents in the history of the United States and added them up, they would not have done near the destruction, damage to our country as Joe Biden and the Biden administration have done. Because nobody has done damage like this. I always say Jimmy Carter's the happiest man alive right now, and it's good because he's somewhat elderly, right? Somewhat. My wife went to the funeral of Rosalind 2 months ago. It was a beautiful funeral. But Jimmy Carter's a happy man right now because people are considering, compared to Biden, his presidency to be a brilliant presidency. Right, Nigel? It's a brilliant. Jimmy Carter, by comparison, has a brilliant presidency. So he's happy. So if you want to save America from crooked Joe Biden, you must go caucus tomorrow. First step. First step. We got to do it. We got to do it big. You got to get out. You can't sit home. If you're sick as a dog, you say, "Darling, I'm going to make it." Even if you vote and then pass away, it's worth it, remember. If you're sick, if you're just so sick, you can't, "Darling, I don't think," get up. Get up. You get up. You're voting. Yes, darling. Ultimately, we know who calls the shots, right? Right, Polly? So you be safe and all. You're going to be safe. And again, all indoors. It's going to be all indoors. But you got to get up. You got to vote. Because it has nothing to do with anything but taking our nation back, and that's the biggest thing there is. So arrive no later than 6:30, and as I said earlier, the details are ia.donaldjtrump.com. So in conclusion, we're having a good time in the world. Just a good time. I got Billy Long up here to show his stuff. From Fort Dodge to Cedar Rapids, from Sioux City to Waterloo, and from Davenport to Des Moines to right here in Indianola, we stand on the shoulders of generations of Iowa patriots who tamed the wilderness, braved the elements, tilled the soil, worked the fields, built the factories, and poured out their sweat, blood, tears to make this country the greatest nation in the history of the world. That's what happened. But now we are a nation in decline. We are a failing nation. We are a nation that has lost its confidence, its willpower, and its strength. We are a nation that has lost its way. But we are not going to allow this horror to continue. 3 years ago, we were a great nation, and we will soon be a great nation again. It was hardworking patriots like you who built this country, and it is hardworking patriots like you who are going to save our country. We will fight for America like no one has ever fought before. 2024 is our final battle. With you at my side, we will demolish the deep state. We will expel the warmongers, get them out of our government. We will drive out the globalists. We will cast out the communists, Marxists, the fascists. We will throw off the sick political class that truly hates our country. We will rout the fake news media, and we will evict crooked Joe Biden from the White House on November 5th, 2024. The great silent majority is rising like never before, and under our leadership, the forgotten man and woman will be forgotten no longer. You will be forgotten no longer. You weren't forgotten during 4 years of President Trump. We will love our country. We will take care of our country. We will pray to God for our strength and for our liberty. We will pray for God and we will be with God because we are one movement, one people, one family, and one glorious nation under God. And together we will make America powerful again. We will make America wealthy again. We will make America strong again. We will make America proud again. We will make America safe again. And we will make America great again. Thank you very much, Iowa. Thank you. Thank you very much. God bless you. Thank you.
Of a very interesting speech by the president, but it's no surprise that he touched on a lot of the issues that we've been talking about over the last several years.
Yes, and the months and months of campaigning here in Iowa, weeks on end, several events a day, it all comes down to this.
Yeah, it all comes down to this, and of course, he encouraged everyone here in Iowa to get out and be vocal and show up. And he even made a joke of saying, well, if you don't feel good, still go vote, because at least you made the right vote. So he's encouraging everyone to caucus, which I think is great. We want to thank a lot of our partners for today. First, our partners over at the Birch Gold Group. They'll tell you how to convert an existing IRA into a gold-backed IRA. Our friends at the Birch Gold Group can do just that. Just text the word Trump to 989898. That is the Birch Gold Group. Also, if you're struggling with back taxes, our friends over at Tax Network USA can help you with that. Doesn't matter if it's 1,000, 10,000, 100,000. If you're 1 year or you haven't paid taxes in 10 years, they can do just that. Tax Network USA. The information for that is on your screen.
And don't forget about Pure Talk. I really love this one. Pure Talk is social engineering from leftist corporations make you feel like we're living in the twilight zone. Well, you are not alone. Contact Pure Talk today. Dial that number on your screen. That's 8448 Pure Talk. Their U.S. customer service team is waiting by to help you make this switch. And call 8448 Pure Talk.
January 14th, 2023. Mike Adams here. Thank you for joining me. This will be short today, but we have a couple of important things to share with you. One of which is that there's been a major election in Taiwan, and the pro-independence party won big. It's called the DPP, and the DPP party is about independence from China. China is all freaked out at this point. They've issued a bunch of threats to Taiwan, but Taiwan is a separate country, and I know that that view is not necessarily popular, even in the alternative media, but I'm going to share with you why it is. I live there. I know better than most Americans that Taiwan is, in fact, its own country. So we'll have that story coming up. But first, I've got a couple other things to show you. I've got a warm-hearted chicken rescue story here to share with you, and with some photos too. So you'll love that. It's coming up. And then I've got a short video, about a 5-minute video, showing you my forced air diesel heater with battery backup setup using the EcoFlow device with a forced air diesel heater or multi-fuel heater. And I'm showing you how that works, and showing you how it works off-grid. And in my particular setup, it'll work 8 hours off-grid while producing 215,000 BTUs, which is a lot of heat, and I'm using it to heat a barn. You can't use these indoors, but I'm using it to heat a barn that's not airtight to keep my goats warm and my chickens and the rooster and hen that I rescued that I want to tell you about, and then I'll show you some photos. So this is a funny, true, and I hope heartwarming story, although it started out on a very sad note. So there's a restaurant that's not that far from the Health Ranger store warehouse, and I'd eaten there quite a lot over the years. I got to know the staff and the chef, and the chef was an amazingly talented food artist. Let me tell you, really amazing. Unfortunately, he passed away. He just passed away a few days ago. But outside his restaurant for the past several months had been a rooster hen pair that would just hang out outside his restaurant, and actually they would hop up on the windowsill. I asked him about the rooster and the hen one day, and he thought of them as his pets. And he really loved the rooster and the hen. And I remember each time walking by, I'm like, wow, this rooster is gorgeous. This is just a gorgeous plumage, and I've never seen this feather pattern, and the tail feathers are amazing. This is an amazing looking rooster. And the hen looked really healthy too, also really great plumage. And one night I saw a cat prowling around, and I told the chef, hey, there's a cat out there, and he rushes out, to protect his rooster. He really cared for them. And he told me he built a little, I don't know, like a little house or crate or something for them, but they didn't like it. He said they just wanted to hang out outside the restaurant, because I guess the restaurant customers would toss them some food from time to time. Well, the chef passed away just all of a sudden. And the cold wave is coming, depending on where you are. If you're listening in North America, the cold wave may already be upon you. It's about to strike Texas as I'm recording this. It's starting to drop in temperature. But I was very much concerned, like, what's this rooster and hen gonna do in the cold? The chef is gone. And so we talked to the staff there, who, of course, were also devastated by the passing of the chef. And turns out that we were chosen to adopt this rooster and the hen. We just had to go get them, which is no small task, by the way. If you've ever tried to capture a rooster and a hen that don't want to be captured, you're in for some work. But I've got many years of raising roosters and hens, so I thought, well, I've got a good shot at this. So I went over there 2 nights ago, kind of in the evening, just after sundown, because you don't ever want to try to capture roosters and hens when the sun is up. You have to wait for dark. That's the only chance you ever have. They're more unaware in the dark than you can grab them. I went restaurant was closed because the chef had passed away, and how sad it was. You know, how much he was loved in the community and so on. And sure enough, there's the rooster and the hen. And I'm thinking, you know, this is a great thing that I can do for the chef. He cared about this rooster and this hen. And so I might have the only chicken ranch in Central Texas that is like a retirement center for chickens, you know, where they can just live out their lives, never get butchered or anything, you know, not getting eaten by raccoons. This is like Golden Acres Retirement Center for chickens. So I brought a crate with me, of course, in my truck, and I realized all I have to do now is grab this rooster and put it in the crate. And this other customer was there. It's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm adopting the rooster and the hen. Yeah, I'm adopting them together because they've been here. Saying, oh, yeah, they need to go somewhere, you know, so like a good home. Like, yeah, this is, trust me, where they're going is like the best chicken retirement ranch in Texas. There's no question about it. So they said, well, how are you going to do it? I said, well, first of all, wearing these leather gloves, because roosters have sharp, you know, fighting claws and so on. And I'm gonna just like grab it really fast and hold on to it as fast as I can. And then I'm gonna chuck it into this crate here. I'm gonna grab the hen and chuck it into the crate. And then my wife was with me, so she's ready to grab the hen. I thought the two of us could grab these two together. And so I opened the truck door and I opened up the crate and I put hay in the crate. It's like a big dog crate, by the way. Plenty of room. And I put hay in there to keep them comfortable. And then I'm like, okay, get ready. And then this other guy, he's like, I gotta watch this. Because people that don't own chickens and maybe don't know how this goes. And so I just casually kind of stroll up and then wham, I grab them. You gotta grab them hard. You have to grab them to where you pin their wings to their body, okay? This is the secret. And you have to get their feet off the ground because they'll work their feet against you. So I grab them and hold them tight. You gotta hold them almost like crazy tight because they're strong. And they'll beat you with the wings and they'll fight you, right? And then a second later, this rooster just starts freaking out. It's like, you know, I'm thinking, trust me, this is good for you, you know? And he's fighting. And I'm holding on to him, and I'm like trying to get him under control so I can put him in the crate. And this guy, I'm glad he didn't film it, but this guy was like, well, it looks like you're dancing with that rooster, you know? Because I was kind of trying to get a good hold on him, and I don't know if it was just my twisted sense of humor. And I probably shouldn't have said this, but it just triggered, you know, sometimes I have this weird associations. But standing there with this rooster held out in front of me in my two hands, gripping it hard, and he said, looks like you're dancing with that rooster. I blurted out, yeah, I like to rock out with my cock out. And then I threw him in the crate and shut the door. And my wife grabbed the hen, threw her in the crate, shut the door. They were contained, and the customer was just laughing. I'm like, I'm so glad I could provide entertainment for you this evening. You can't have the meal, but I am your entertainment, so I hope you enjoyed that. But no, he was appreciative of what we were doing, and oh, I should show you the picture. So here's the picture of the rooster and the hen in the crate. And you can't tell how beautiful the rooster is at this moment because she was a little freaked out too. But this is the crate photo, and there you can see the rooster and the hen, and they always love to hang out together. And so anyway, took them back to the ranch and set them in the barn on some hay. And then opened up the crate door. They slept in the crate at night and opened up the door so they could get out in the morning when the sun comes up. And then, sure enough, the next morning, I hear sure enough, the rooster was having a great time intermixing with all our other hens, and also the hen. The hen was having a great time too, just cruising around, unbounded. And so let me show you the picture of the rooster, because he's a really beautiful rooster. Here he is with a lot of my other hens in the background. Now, see how beautiful he is? Look at his tail plume and his feather pattern. Now, what's weird is this picture, it almost looks photoshopped, but it's not. I mean, it almost looks like the paint type of Photoshop. I mean, it almost looks like he's painted into this picture because the feather patterns. I assure you, that is all real. That is the way he looks. It's an incredible pattern. This is a gorgeous rooster, and this is not Photoshop. He's walking around, cruising around. I'll get a video for you some more here. But he was having a great time. And then the next night, the rooster and the hen went back into the crate. They're like, "This is home now. This is our apartment." Went back into the crate. And it turns out that crate is in the barn where I have backup heat set up. So emergency heat, forced air diesel to heat our plumbing distribution system and keep the barn warm for the animals, which includes goats, and now this rooster and this hen. And also, it will include some of my dogs. And don't worry, my dogs are mature enough now. They don't eat the chickens or the roosters. Good luck trying. This rooster can fight, let me tell you. So, that's the true story of the rooster and the hen that we adopted and gave them a new home. So, what do you know? It's not all bad news all the time. At least a little silver lining in the news. We managed to save the life of a rooster and a chicken right before the cold wave sweeps in. Now then, speaking of cold wave sweeping in, let me show you the video of my forced air diesel heater setup with a backup battery that can run it for 8 hours. And we're talking over 200,000 BTUs of heat. It's loud, it's powerful, and it's going to warm the barn for all the animals. So let me show you that video, and I'll be back on the other side with a quick discussion about the election in Taiwan. Alright, Mike Adams here, showing you my setup for reliable diesel heat in the coming Arctic blast wave. This is the EcoFlow battery backup system. I've got it plugged into the grid right here, charging. And if you come around to the front panel there, you can see it's 99% charged, and there's no input, no output. It's not doing anything at the moment. Now, this is a 215,000 BTU system, and I'm using this to heat the barn, and just put diesel in it right here. It's a forced air diesel system. It produces a lot of heat. I'll show it to you here, and then we'll show you what happens when we take this off the grid, and how much time it will run off grid in order to power this in case of a grid down scenario. So it's going to get really loud as I turn this on. And what I'm going to do is I'll turn it on, I'll show it to you, doing the heat, and then I'll unplug it from the grid, and we'll take a look at the screen over here, and we'll find out how many watts it's using, and then this EcoFlow unit will calculate how many hours it will last, or days, it's days, probably just hours. But it's going to get really loud, so here we go. It's going to fire up. EcoFlow is the device that you want to use here. And I just showed you how it works. This is one of the larger EcoFlow units, maybe the largest, but there are smaller units that will give you, 4 hours or 2 hours or 1 hour. If the power grid goes down, it comes back up in 30 minutes, you're still going to be good. So you can check these out, these units right here at BeReady123.com. EcoFlow is the brand, and they have a lot of different sizes. They got a nice display panel here, and it's got multiple AC outlets that you can use here, and also a high amperage outlet. And of course, there's DC here as well. There's USB ports, and there's multiple inputs. It ships with this, which is a solar panel input. I can connect solar panels to it in the back and just let the sun recharge it. So it's very flexible on different kinds of inputs of power, and it's great for emergencies like this where the grid may not be reliable. So thank you for watching. Mike Adams here. You can see more of my preparedness videos at prepwithmike.com or thisbrighttown.com. Take care. All right, hope you enjoyed that little video there. You can also buy smaller versions of those forced air heaters. You don't have to do 200,000 BTUs. I would just rather buy a larger one like that than to end up not having enough heat for the animals. All right, moving over to Taiwan, major election history in the making. Taiwan now has a new president of the DPP, the Democratic Progressive Party, as it's known. Lai Ching-te is his name, and it was not even really a close election. Now, what you need to understand here, this will impact us in the United States and all around the world. So the DPP party of Taiwan believes in Taiwan independence. The KMT party believes in reunification with China. And the KMT party of Kuomintang is mostly taken over by a lot of influences from communist China. Whereas the DPP is, of course, more independent, more entrepreneurial, more feisty. And that's why I tend to like the DPP. So the DPP has just one. And this means that China's aim of reunification with Taiwan has been set back. Doesn't mean it won't ultimately succeed, because it is moving in that direction. By the way, China is slowly taking over Taiwan's culture and media and economic pillars of society. So probably at some point, there will be, I don't know if you call it reunification or some understanding, but at some point, Taiwan has got to be recognized as an independent nation. Let me share with you my experience on this, because of course I lived in Taiwan. I was a resident of Taiwan. I lived on Xiyilu Santuan, by the way, in Taipei. That's the third section of Xiyilu. We're right off of Xiyilu. And that's a major road. Everybody in Taiwan, or at least everybody in Taipei, knows what road that is. And living in Taiwan, I really came to have incredible respect and admiration for the people of Taiwan. To this day, I think the people of Taiwan are incredibly innovative, resilient, hard workers, dedicated, also capable of fun and spontaneity. But they're really smart, they're great engineers. Overall, the Taiwan people are really amazing people. Now, genetically, they're pretty much the same as mainland China. It's just that the culture of Taiwan is a culture of more freedom than mainland China. Taiwan is a democracy, not communism. And so the structure of democracy has led Taiwan to a lot more innovation and I think a lot of advancements in their society. I don't agree with everything that's going on in Taiwan, but overall, I'm a great admirer of the people of Taiwan and Taiwan as a country. Now, States used to, but that switched with Richard Nixon. Richard Nixon switched recognition away from Taiwan to China. So the United States of America used to recognize Taiwan as an independent nation, but that didn't achieve the globalist plans to make China the rising industrial star of the world, China's labor force. So it was the Western world and the globalists that actually sort of lifted China up from an impoverished third world nation back in the 1950s and even 60s into this modern day economic and technology powerhouse that China is today. But that was achieved by giving China a lot of technology. Bill Clinton helped with that. And a lot of globalists helped with that. And also by giving China all the manufacturing business. And a lot of people all over the world, and a lot of business leaders all over the world, they offshored their manufacturing to China. And so China grew from that. China would not have grown on its own. It was helped by globalism and Western nations that turned China into the powerful force that it is today. But all this time, Taiwan has succeeded on its own. Taiwan has had to struggle through all these decades to build everything itself. Taiwan built its own wealth. No one came along and just handed everything to Taiwan like they did China. Taiwan had to struggle, it had to work hard, it had to be innovative. It's an island nation. It doesn't have much in the way of natural resources, especially energy resources. But yet Taiwan became a manufacturing powerhouse even before China. And a lot of innovation in Taiwan, a lot of technology. And today, Taiwan semiconductors are noted as the most advanced semiconductors in the world. And that was built in Taiwan. Taiwan did that itself. So I understand that Taiwan is its own nation. Let me explain why. Taiwan has its own elections, as just took place. Taiwan has its own political leaders. Taiwan has its own embassies, which in some cases are not called embassies because a lot of other nations around the world don't want to offend China, so they don't call it an embassy. For example, America's embassy in Taiwan is not called the American Embassy, it's called the American Institute in Taiwan, or AIT as it's known. And it's in Taipei. I've been there. You go to AIT, it's an embassy. That's where you do passports and everything. Or if you're a Taiwan citizen and you want to visit America, you want permission to visit, or you're working on a green card or whatever, you go to AIT. That's the embassy. It's just not called an embassy. Taiwan has its own currency. Taiwan doesn't use the yuan or the renminbi. Taiwan has its own NT dollar. So it has its own elections, has its own currency, has its own embassies, its own leaders, has its own military, has its own borders. It's got its own territory, the island. It even has its own way of speaking. Even though in Taiwan they speak Mandarin Chinese, they speak it differently. They also speak Taiwanese. And I don't speak any Taiwanese, well, maybe a couple of words. But most of the people that I know in Taiwan, they do speak Taiwanese. So Taiwanese is the native language, or let's say related to the native language. And then they speak Mandarin, but they speak Mandarin in a Taiwan dialect, which is different from mainland China. And I learned to speak Chinese in Taiwan, so I speak Chinese like a Taiwan person, not a mainland China person. But it's very easy for me to hear the difference. So if I hear somebody speaking Chinese, I can tell you whether they're from Taiwan or they're from mainland China. Very easy to tell. So in addition to that, of course, Taiwan has its own central bank. Taiwan has its own financial system. Taiwan has its own media. Taiwan has its own national interests. Taiwan has its own deals with other nations around the world. Taiwan has its own import and export industries, and so on. So, of all the things that define a nation, language, money, military, elections, geography, etc., Taiwan has them all. Taiwan also has its own culture that is distinct. It's different from Chinese culture in China. So the fact that the United States doesn't recognize Taiwan as a separate nation, that doesn't mean anything. The United the truth. So when the State Department says that it recognizes China as the legitimate nation, well, that's another lie. I mean, what else does the State Department do? The State Department lies all the time. Now, Taiwan is a strong ally of the United States. It's also a very strong trading partner. And not just exporting from Taiwan, being purchased by U.S. consumers, although that is significant, especially in microchips. But Taiwan also is a major purchaser of United States exports, including military exports. So Taiwan buys whatever weapon systems the United States is willing to sell it. And the U.S. over the years has been willing to sell Taiwan quite a lot in terms of military equipment for its own self-defense against China. Now, because, of course, the United States wants to help Taiwan maintain its own independence from a military and strategic point of view, because the United States needs an ally in that area, because Taiwan has its own, airfields, and naval ports, and so on, and underground mountain Air Force bases. Taiwan's done some really amazing things underneath the mountains. China can't even bomb that. So there are people in independent media who do a great job analyzing other situations like Russia and Ukraine, but I think they get it wrong on Taiwan. For example, Brian Berletic, he's New Atlas, and I've interviewed him, and I really respect his analysis of geopolitics and world events. I think he's really sharp, and he's definitely worth listening to. But I would disagree with his assessment of China versus Taiwan. It's clear to me, as someone who has lived in Taiwan, that Taiwan is an independent nation. Brian Berletic and many others believe that Taiwan is only part of China, and that China has the right to subsume Taiwan at any time. Respectfully, I disagree with that for the reasons I've already mentioned. In any other nation in the world, if some group had its own island, millions of people, its own language, its own currency, its own elections, its own leaders, its own embassies, its own culture, its own central bank, everything, we would call that a nation. We would call that its own sovereign nation. Only when it comes to China and Taiwan do we say, oh, it's part of China. No, it isn't. Taiwan is its own nation. And now the people of Taiwan have just voted to confirm that. They voted DPP into power, which is really, it's a vote to separate from China and to declare Taiwan's independence. Now, China says that if Taiwan ever declares its independence, China will then attack Taiwan. So Taiwan is in this limbo zone where, with the DPP election, it's off on its own track towards independence. Although, again, a lot of mainland Chinese influences are infiltrating Taiwan society. But no one in Taiwan, at least no leader, will exactly declare independence because that would be too provocative to China. And frankly, the best shot that Taiwan has is to simply wait for China to suffer either an economic collapse or its own internal political revolution. And as China loses its own centralized power, which is bound to happen for reasons beyond this podcast, then Taiwan would be able to, at that time, declare its independence. The downside of Taiwan being an ally of the United States is that Taiwan is kind of forced to go along with every lunatic thing that the U.S. does, like, trying to fight Russia, or sending more bombs to Israel to bomb Palestinians in Gaza. And so Taiwan has to always go along with the U.S., like, yes, we love what the U.S. is doing. Send more bombs to Israel, whatever, Taiwan can't ever go against the U.S. because the U.S. is Taiwan's most critical ally. And in a sense, you can say Japan is also an ally of Taiwan now, because Japan is, well, since post-World War II, and I know this is controversial, but Japan has been essentially a military-controlled colony of the United States of America. Yeah, I mean, read the terms of surrender on the USS Missouri, September 2nd, 1945. It was an unconditional surrender, and the U.S. installed its own government, and the U.S. has a massive military base with more than one in Japan. States military. Okay? And Taiwan is not occupied by the U.S. military, but it is tied to U.S. support and U.S. policies. And all of that is fascinating, given that the Japanese occupied Taiwan in World War II and did horrible things to many Taiwanese citizens, by the way. But Japan also carried out atrocities against the Chinese. And we're not going to cover all that because, well, there's just too many atrocities in history to accurately cover in a podcast like this. And plus, there are atrocities going on right now today in Gaza. But that's not the focus of today's podcast. Now, China said that if anybody in Taiwan votes for the DPP party, that's a vote for war. Yeah, think about that. But China does like to do a lot of saber rattling. The real question is, would China actually try to militarily invade and take over Taiwan? And although my views on this have morphed over the years based on new information, my current assessment, which is subject to change, is that China is far more likely to invade the United States than Taiwan at the moment. Why? Well, because invading Taiwan, number one, is very, very difficult. Taiwan is extremely well defended. It is an island nation, which means you have to sail a bunch of ships in it. Most of those ships are going to get destroyed, and Taiwan has incredible anti-ship batteries all over the mountains and everything. Where do you even land? It's not like Taiwan's west coast is just a bunch of beaches. It's not. It's very formidable territory. And also Taiwan has had mandatory military training for several decades. Although it doesn't necessarily churn out super soldiers or anything like that, but at least every man in Taiwan of any age, or above 18, can pick up a rifle. Now, whether they can hit anything with it, I guess depends on how much experience they have. Taiwan is not a gun culture. And there's no Second Amendment in Taiwan. Private citizens are not allowed to own guns. So the only real experience that Taiwan citizens get with rifles is in the military. And from the people I know from Taiwan, the rifles they trained on were pretty ancient. It's like World War II rifles or something. So, that Taiwan can't just suddenly deploy millions of professional soldiers. But Taiwan does have very strong coastal defenses and, of course, the United States Navy. But guess where the Navy is right now? Oh, yeah, bombing Yemen from the Red Sea. So the Navy is all distracted and weeks away from Taiwan, which could indicate that if China wanted to attack Taiwan, this would be the window of time to do it. The U.S. Navy is barely there. And Taiwan's DPP election is a clear indication that Taiwan wants independence. But I don't think China's ready for that. Number one, China doesn't have a strong enough Navy yet.
起きたのはさ、
Really
28分ぐらいだったけど、
because it would be a naval battle. The more time that passes, the stronger China's Navy gets compared to the US Navy. Because China has much larger naval manufacturing capabilities compared to the United States. In fact, according to one analysis, China now has 200 times more output of naval ships than does the United States. 200 times. So China wants to buy time. China wants to wait 5, even 10 years. And the way Chinese think, by the way, the mentality of Chinese is, hey, we're not in a hurry. Chinese have a long memory. And they are working the long plan here. Which really, to favor China, it would be to not attack Taiwan right now and wait a few more years and build up a stronger Navy. And probably see the United States increasingly weakened with the collapse of the dollar and the rise of BRICS currencies. See, that's what China's thinking, I think. China just has to try not to collapse itself and launch the BRICS currency and watch the dollar collapse and watch the United States maybe suffer a civil war or something like that. So China's play is probably to try to invoke internal strife in the United States, a civil war, an economic collapse, a currency collapse, something like that. That's why China is working with the narcos, the drug cartels in Mexico, to keep pushing fentanyl across the 600,000 Americans dead from fentanyl. So China's best strategic play, from their point of view, is to try to erode America. Culturally, with TikTok videos, economically, with BRICS currencies and de-dollarization, through chemical warfare with fentanyl and drug smuggling into the United States, and other similar methods. And so China hopes that the United States collapses, which would give China an opportunity to take Taiwan without the U.S. Navy interfering. Taiwan hopes that China has an economic collapse that would give Taiwan the ability to declare its own independence without being invaded and assaulted by China. The United States hopes that everybody else collapses other than the U.S. and Israel. That's become clear, right? And the U.S. is doing its darndest to destroy Western Europe, of course, and its energy sources and its economy, but the U.S. also wants to destroy China and Russia and Iran and obviously Yemen, now maybe the Saudis, who knows? Definitely Lebanon, definitely eventually they'll get around to maybe bombing Egypt or Jordan, surely Syria, and at some point the U.S. is going to have to deal with Turkey, But this is the U.S. ambition, wipe the map of Iraq, Iran, all the Muslim nations, so that Israel can expand and have greater Israel. So if the U.S. could just redraw the world map, all of Asia and the Middle East would just be Israel, greater Israel. I don't know, Russia wouldn't exist, China wouldn't exist, and Taiwan would still be a little island. Israel would take over China and Russia. I mean, that's never going to happen. That's a fantasy. But I'm just saying that in their minds, the way they would like to redraw the map is just have everybody dead in the world except the Zionists and, the U.S. woke-tard lunatics. That's pretty much their plan. Now, that plan's going to fail, but I just want to give you that analysis so you know some of the dynamics here. So, watch carefully what happens next. We need to keep our eyes on China and Taiwan. We need to watch what happens with the U.S. Navy, with Yemen and the Red Sea. If you think about it, what's happening in the Middle East is it's occupying the U.S. Navy. It's forcing the Navy to hang out, even in the Persian Gulf and the Eastern Mediterranean and the Red Sea, which is far from, the Taiwan Strait, right? Far from the West Pacific. So perhaps China has had a hand in arranging this situation for their own reasons. I guess we shall soon find out. But finally, as long as we're speaking about countries and independence, there is one other country in the world that I believe should have its own independence. And that is, of course, the Republic of Texas. Yes. The Republic of Texas was once its own nation and probably will be again. We'll see. I mean, I say that partly satirically. I don't know what's going to happen exactly with the United States, but I do know the currency is going to collapse. And when that happens, I do believe there will be a decentralization of power out of Washington, D.C. And depending on what else is happening in the world, it may necessitate regions or even large states like Texas declaring their own independence. I mean, Texas just seized a park near the border because, and they kicked out federal border agents because the feds were just using that park to allow illegals to just walk right on through and invade Texas. Texas finally got serious about that and just seized the park, kicked out the feds, and said, no, you can't use this for illegal immigration. That's kind of the beginning of the Texas separation from the United States of America. And with the DOJ trying to sue Texas to make sure that Texas can't arrest illegals for trespassing and can't deport people, and with Governor Abbott already sending 100,000 illegals to other cities like New York City and Chicago, we've talked about that, you can see that this is the early chapter of a separation, of a kind of a national divorce. election, again, I think we're going to see a lot of secession. We're going to see a real breakup of the United States of America, and that's not to even mention what might be happening in terms of war with Russia, war in the Middle East, the de-dollarization, debt collapse, banking system collapse, all these other factors, which will also play a role. And I'll add, it's very difficult to predict what's going to happen over the next 12 months. I don't think there's anybody that really can, because there are so many wild cards that could come into play. Like, what if China does invade Taiwan? What if there is a debt default on the US dollar? What if Iran launches a nuclear weapon and sinks a dozen US naval vessels, huh? Or what if Israel launches nukes at, who knows? I mean, maybe they'll try to nuke Iran. There's so many wild cards in this, even involving Russia and the UK. I've heard now the UK wants to send troops into Ukraine to fight Russia. Really? What, all 500 that you have left? I mean, how many soldiers does the UK even have? I think they're down to like 40 tanks. It's just like a weekend in Russia, you know? Russia will take out 40 tanks in a couple of days. Yeah, even your British Challenger tanks. They're still vulnerable up close. I mean, I want to see the UK send everything it's got at Russia. Because the UK needs to get smacked down from its arrogance and incompetence, thinking that it can rule the world like it once did. When it occupied India, for example, had a military presence. How many countries around the world? And the United Kingdom ruled the seas. Well, those days are over. The UK can barely function as a nation at this point. Well, same thing with the US, by the way. I'm not saying the US is any better at this point. If you're listening from the UK, I think the same thing about my own country. But if the UK sends soldiers to fight Russia, it's going to be so embarrassing for the United Kingdom. I mean, oh my gosh, the world will laugh at the clown show of the UK trying to muster up enough troops to make a dent in Russia's defensive lines. It will be almost embarrassing. It's almost like, have you ever watched a UFC fight where one fighter is so much better than the other, and the fighter is just like pummeling the guy on the ground with elbows, and you're like, please, ref, stop the fight. This is just so sad to watch, you know? That's what it's going to be like, Russia versus the United Kingdom. It's going to be like, oh, God, please, why did you subject us to this? I mean, we almost feel sorry for the British troops at this point that are going to be sent to the front lines. It's not going to be pretty. But there are so many wild cards here that this is a year where, I mean, I can talk about trends, but I can't tell you what's going to break first. I don't know. I just know that preparedness is the most critical thing right now, including financial preparedness, food preparedness, all of it. So get ready in every way that you can. Let me plug a couple of things here. Gold and silver, metalswithmike.com. Go there, check out their live prices, and get 1 ounce coins in your hands, or if you want more divisible forms of gold, check out Goldbacks. You can find that at verifiedgoldbacks.com. And full disclosure, verifiedgoldbacks.com is an affiliate site. We do earn a small percentage at no additional cost to you. Metalswithmike.com is not an affiliate site, but the Treasure Island Company is a sponsor. However, I don't earn anything on sales of gold and silver from them. The margins are just so thin that that's impossible. But back to Goldbacks, what I really like about them is that you can have them at 1/1000th of an ounce of gold embedded in the bill. It's real physical gold. I've done all the lab tests. I've proven it. 24 karat plus gold, and better than 100% recovery if you melt them down in a kiln. And you can get a 5, a 10, a 25, or a 50. The 50 has 51/1000ths of a troy ounce of gold in the bill. It's thick. It's heavy. You can feel it. It's heavy. And if you melt it down again, you have 51/1000ths of an ounce of gold. The gold in the bill. And so these are really great gifts, and they're very beautiful beautiful. People love them. People rave about these things. Just look at the photos. Check them out. VerifiedGoldbacks.com, and you can see all my lab tests there that I did. I show you all my lab results, proof that they contain what they claim to contain in terms of gold and the gold purity. So check that out. In terms of food supplies, of course, check out our website, healthrangerstore.com. We've got Ranger buckets, certified organic, laboratory tested. We've got mini buckets, mega buckets, and this is really high-end, high-quality food. This isn't cheap. I mean, the stuff that's out there in the marketplace often is just textured soy protein. You know, it's not even organic most of the time. You're eating glyphosate. You know, a lot of the kind of cheap preparedness food products that are out there. No, all the foods that we sell are certified organic. And we have number 10 cans that are packed with freeze-dried blueberries, for example. You gotta have blueberries. It's a great source of vitamin C and anthocyanins. And vitamin C is what's lacking from most people's historical food supplies, by the way. We've got freeze-dried mangoes and strawberries and broccoli and kale, and we've got chlorella and spirulina. We've got miso soup powder. And we've got the buckets that I mentioned that have all kinds of nuts and grains and beans and lentils and all kinds of things together. Check it out at healthrangerstore.com. I think you'll really enjoy our selection. And then two more things real quick. For backup communications, satellite phone store, of course, SAT123.com. And then if you need a de-Googled phone, you know, a phone that doesn't spy on you, we work with abovephone.com. And if you go there, go to abovephone.com/DTV. That stands for Decentralized TV. That's our affiliate link. And you will see that they have the best selection of de-Googled phones. They don't have Google on them at all. They don't use Google Play. They don't spy on you. They're still Android, but it's without Google. And they have the best privacy software of any de-Google, ecosystem. Check it out, abovephone.com/DTV. And I think you'll be really happy with what you find there. I love their phones. All right, with that said, stay warm, folks. Check on your animals. Make sure they're warm. It's crazy cold across North America. Be safe if you're using backup heat. Don't start fires. Obviously, watch out for carbon monoxide. If you have anything heating indoors, just make sure it's safe. Just think through all this. Be cautious. Be prepared. It's going to be a cold one for the next few days, and it's going to be a wild ride for the rest of the year. No question about it. I wish I knew exactly what was going to unfold, but I don't, so we have to be prepared for every possibility. And for the most part, we are. I'm ready now for this cold blast better than I have ever been in any of the previous years. I've got my tractor with the PTO generator ready to go. I've got all the water pipes insulated. I've got the forced air diesel heaters with the backup batteries and several other things. I've got my animals all safely in the barn with hay, but the barn door's open enough that they can get in and out as they want to, So if there were a fire or something in the barn, they can escape. I always think about things like that, What happens if there's a fire? How do they get out? So just think about all those things and be safe. And I'll be back with you tomorrow. Stay warm, folks. Take care. I'm happy to announce we have our laundry detergent back in stock at healthrangerstore.com. Got it up on my laptop here to show you. Now, you may wonder, what's so special about laundry detergent? Well, and we sell it as a pair here, these two, I think it's 5-pound boxes, yeah. 2 5-pound boxes together. Well, check this out. We are meticulous about the ingredients. This has 0 abrasives, no lye, no phosphates, no bleach, no dyes, no perfume. Most people's laundry detergent is a toxic stew of garbage. But if you look at our ingredients here, you can go through these ingredients and you can meticulously research these ingredients as we have done. And you can find out that they're incredibly safe for the environment, safe for you and your skin, and also very effective at cleaning your laundry. A lot of people's laundry detergent is just filled with fragrance chemicals that make their clothes smell better. But it's toxic. All those perfumes, when you perspire, the wetness this soaks into your clothes that are soaked in the toxins in the laundry detergent, and then your skin can absorb those toxins, which in many cases with many other products are cancer-causing toxins. That's why we say no synthetic fragrances whatsoever. We want you to be clean, but we also want you to be cancer-free, right? I mean, we don't want to have a product that contributes to your cancer. And so we're very meticulous about the ingredients. This is the laundry detergent that I use, and you know how sensitive I am to artificial fragrance and fabric softeners and all that garbage, which I think is just poison for consumers. Typically, what's sold at the main stores out there, the big box stores and so on. If you want to clean up your life, clean up your health habits, it's not enough to just have clean food and clean water. You also need to stop poisoning your laundry, and that means get our laundry detergent, healthrangerstore.com. It's back in stock now. It's been over 6 months since we even had this in stock, and this is not going to last very long because so many people have been waiting for it. It's difficult for us to get this formulation manufactured and made for us and then delivered to us. And I don't know how long this is going to last. Get some now while you can. We also have, by the way, automatic dishwasher detergent. We have body soap. We have many other home and personal care products at healthrangerstore.com. And in addition to supporting our platform and our message with your purchase, you're also supporting your own health. You're detoxifying your body. You're going to live a cleaner, healthier, longer life because of avoiding exposure to the toxins that are associated with all kinds of horrible things that happen to people. And so clean up your laundry. Get the poison out of your clothing, out of your socks, out of your underwear, and this is how you can do it. Laundry detergent, healthrangerstore.com. We formulated it. It's manufactured for us. Finally have it back in stock while supplies last, and then it'll probably be gone for 6 more months. So check it out right now, today, healthrangerstore.com. Thank you for your support. A global reset is coming, and that's why I've recorded a new 9-hour audiobook. It's called the Global Reset Survival Guide. You can download it for free by subscribing to the naturalnews.com email newsletter, which is also free. I'll describe how the monetary system fails. I also cover emergency medicine and first aid and what to buy to help you avoid infections. So download this guide. It's free. It's my gift to you simply because I want like-minded people to survive. Please support the broadcast and get these evil supplements that only have InfoWarsStore.com or 888-253-3139. Get a signed or unsigned copy of my book right away from InfoWarsStore.com. And get ready to resend me on the Reddit. Call toll free 888-253-3139. 888-253-3139.
World War III has already begun. Began with the Ukraine war. And again, people have no idea about why it began, what happened, and what set it off. All they hear is from the mainstream media crap that they keep selling, the prostitutes, the media whores they get paid to put out by their corporate pimps and government whore masters. And the Sunni contributor to Occupy Peace sent a very generous donation, and she said that your title of calling them prostitutes is incorrect. She said because prostitutes, at least you get what you paid for. You still exactly. So here's the cover of our magazine back in 2014. The guy's not happy. It's the United States overthrow the democratically elected government of Viktor Yanukovych in Ukraine. Washington is driving the world to the final war. Here it is, by Dr. Paul Krabgrog. So now, World War III began with the Ukraine war. Now it's been ramped up with Israel. And as you mentioned, the United States and the UK, I think you need an F and a C in the UK. just bombs away over Yemen. Once upon a time, Alex, there used to be a thing called the Constitution that gave Congress the only right to declare war. Hey, I'm the commander-in-chief. I'll do anything I want. All you are is plantation workers of slave land, and you do what we tell you. This is unparalleled what's going on. This is, now, going back, World War III is going to happen, and they're already warning it. They're already warning about Hezbollah may attack America. Oh yeah, like 9/11, huh? As you said, when all else fails, they take you to war. What followed? The Great Depression. World War II. What followed the dot-com bust? War on Terror. Again, one of our top trends, of course, is World War III. Another one, again, all things are connected. Like the blood which unites us all in Seattle. One of our top trends is migrant madness, and I'm mad as hell. Why are they leaving? Why are they escaping all these countries? Because their economies are in the toilet. Thanks to the COVID war, it was already bad before that. But the COVID war made it a lot worse. So now you have this migrant crisis going on. You have people fleeing because of declining economies. They're escaping lack of basic living standards, government corruption, crime, and violence. I'm saying this because the global economy is going down. Oh, you don't believe us? Oh, the World Bank came out on Tuesday and said Europe's going to have its worst year in 30 years. When all else fails, they take you to war. This war's ramping up. The only way that Biden's going to stay in office is with war going on. If they attack America, we have to do what we can to fight back.
So the dominoes are now falling. How do you see this unfolding? Because I agree with you, World War III has already begun. Most analysts agree with that. My question is, does it go nuclear? Walk through that.
Yeah, it's going to go nuclear. They're maniacs. You don't ask a murderer why they're a murderer. They're maniacs. World War II is in ancient history. How many million people were slaughtered? They asked Albert Einstein, a cat that knew a thing or two about the atomic bomb. They asked him what kind of weapons will be used to fight the Third World War. He said, I don't know. He said, but they'll be using sticks and stones to fight the fourth.
While other networks lie to you about what's happening now, InfoWars tells you the truth about what's happening next. Visit Infowars.com/show and share the link today. Well, we do it. At the start, in the first few weeks of every new year, I've been doing it for, it's got to be 18, 19 years that I've had a chance to have the great Gerald Celente on with us. You know, he's the best-selling, #1 New York Times best-selling author. He's been a big government advisor and the previous incarnation of a big lobbyist, so he knows how the inside works. Whatever we go from Whip Show to Good Morning America to Glenn Beck, Alice Jones, Russia Today, you name it. And if you want to sign up for his incredible digital magazine that's got some of the best intel anywhere and support this broadcast at the same time, he's a sponsor. Go to jonestrends.com, jonestrends.com, and then print off nice color copies of it and hand it out to your friends and family. Now, the latest trends right here, the top trends for 2024, invaluable information right here in my hand. Trendsresearch.com is the main site on X, formerly Twitter, and Gerald Celente. Gerald, it is good to have you on, my friend, and just to be sitting here in this crazy time. How would you, before we get into the trends, define this moment in history we're in right now? Because you always say, when all else fails, they take you to war. What do you call Taiwan about that election? China threatening to invade, saber rattling by both sides, the escalating war in Ukraine, Sweden signaling bracing for Russian invasion, with no evidence of the Middle Eastern war radically expanding between the West and Iran, British and U.S. Warplanes launched from aircraft carriers, striking a whole bunch of targets in Yemen, killing Houthi rebels that have been launching attacks on the Strait of Hormuz and into the Red Sea and other surrounding areas of that ocean there, the Sea of Arabia. I mean, what a time to be alive, Gerald Celente.
First of all, thank you so much for having having me. I really appreciate it. And I appreciate so much what InfoWars does to help so many people, give them information that they can't find anyplace else. And how you fight for freedom, peace, and justice, and the great staff that you have. So I'm very honored to be on with you, and of course, do the weekly podcasts. Alex, I'm at this for 44 years. As you mentioned, best-selling books, Reds 2000, international best-selling book, Trend Tracking, Far Better Than Megatrends, Time Magazine. Publishing the Trends Journal since 1991. It's weekly. I'm heartbroken. I'm heartbroken and seeing the future. World War III has already begun. It began with the Ukraine war. And again, people have no idea about why it began, what happened, and what set it off. All they hear is from the mainstream media crap that they keep selling, the prostitutes, the media wars they get paid to put out by their corporate pimps and government whoremasters. And a contributor to Occupy Peace sent a very generous donation, and she said that your title of calling them prostitutes is incorrect. She said because prostitutes, at least you get what you paid for. You still exactly. So here's the cover of our magazine back in 2014. The guy's not happy. It's the United States overthrow the democratically elected government of Viktor Yanukovych in Ukraine. Washington is driving the world to the final war. Here it is. By Dr. Paul Kremgarvin. So now, World War III began with the Ukraine war. Now it's been ramped up with the Israel war. And as you mentioned, the United States and the UK, I think you needed an F and a C in the UK, they're the ones that just bombs away over Yemen. Once upon a time, Alex, there used to be a thing called the Constitution that gave Congress the only right to declare war. Hey, I'm the commander-in-chief. I'll do anything I want. All you are is plantation workers of slave land, and you do what we tell you. This is unparalleled what's going on there. This is, now, going back, World War III is going to happen, and they're already warning it. You're already warning about Hezbollah may attack America. Oh yeah, like 9/11, huh? As you said, when all else fails, they take you to war. What followed? The Great Depression. World War II. What followed the dot-com bust? The War on Terror. Again, one of our top trends, of course, is World War III. Another one, again, all things are connected. Like the blood which unites us all in Chief Seattle. But one of our top trends is migrant madness, and I'm mad as hell. Why are they leaving? Why are they escaping all these countries? Because their economies are in the toilet. Thanks to the COVID war, it was already bad before that. But the COVID war made it a lot worse. So now you have this migrant crisis going on. You have people fleeing because of declining economies. They're escaping lack of basic living standards, government corruption, crime, and violence. I'm saying this because the global economy is going down. Oh, you don't believe us? Oh, the World Bank came out on Tuesday and said Europe's going to have its worst year in 30 years. When all else fails, they take it to war. This war's ramping up. The only way that Biden's going to stay in office is with war going on. If they attack America, we have to do what we can to fight back. Let's go back. Again, when all else fails, they take you to war. How about the dot-com bust? That's ancient history. No. It happened in 2000.
And sir, let me stop you for just a moment, because there's a lot of new viewers here on the show. We're live right now, on Friday at 12 Central Time. But I'm going to take a clip of this and I'm going to put it up on X, and I would imagine it'll probably get 1 million views, maybe more, but I would guess about 1 million. People are smart, but they're not a trend forecaster. They haven't been doing this for decades like we have. financial system, or there's a crisis, they prop it up with a war. And it didn't just start with the U.S. government or other governments. This has been going on for thousands of years. It's a well-known pattern, so maybe you should give people just some historical understanding of how this isn't a trend. I would call it a rule.
And again, go back to the dot-com bust. Little Georgie Bush's ratings were in the toilet. The United States was in a recession. And again, we forecasted the dot-com bust in our Trends Journal in, where is it? Oh, it's had it over here a second ago. In dot-com this was the name of it now somewhere.
We know you predicted it all. The point is, it's not even a forecast. It's a rule. I mean, they always do it. So they're clearly going to do it again. Describe how you see this expanding and unfolding.
You're going to see a false flag event. You commented what is in the media now, and that's what I'm saying. Everybody should go to InfoWars every day. You see the articles they're putting up and what they're putting up. Because we go around the world. So if we're talking about, what's going on in the Israel war, we go to Times of Israel. We go to Haaretz, the Israeli newspaper, Jerusalem Post, and then we go to the Iranian ones, ISNA, IRNA, Tehran News, Al Jazeera. We go there. So go to this because you just mentioned what's going on, and the reality is war is going on. They've attacked. You mentioned what Sweden is saying, or Norway, I forgot which one you said, that watch out for it with Russia.
They're both saying it, but the Sweden defense minister said basically get ready for war, causing a panic, and Russia says we have no intent of going into Sweden.
Yep. And again, people have no idea. They're talking about the Ukraine or the deal made between when they broke up the Soviet Union with Gorbachev and Bush Sr. and James Baker, quote, NATO will not move 1 inch further. There were 16 NATO countries back then. Now, 31. So if the Russians were up in Canada with missiles aimed at the United States and the Chinese were down in Mexico with missiles aimed at the United States, everybody would be so happy. And they don't talk about all of the flights, all of what the NATO and the United States are doing off the coast of Russia. Could you imagine if the Chinese were down in the Gulf of Mexico and the Russians were off the coast of New York? So they're aggravating this. Again, not my words. The words of a 5-star general, Supreme Commander of the Allied Forces, and 2-term President Franklin Roosevelt, Dwight D. Eisenhower. The military-industrial complex is robbing the nation of the genius of the scientists, the sweat of the laborers, and the future of the children. Here we are. The military-industrial complex is in full control of America, right in front of your eyes.
So the dominoes are now falling. How do you see this unfolding? Because I agree with you, World War III has already begun. Most analysts agree with that. The question is, does it go nuclear? Walk through that.
Yeah, it's going to go nuclear. They're maniacs. You don't ask a murderer why they're a murderer. They're words in it. You never hear the word anymore at all. They're going to use this war to keep stealing more of our rights, and they're going to annihilate us if we, the people, don't stand up and stop it. Hey, Alex, where are all these religions? What happened to the Quakers? They all died in an earthquake. Seventh-day Adventists waiting for the eighth day. With the Catholics, the Episcopalians, the Baptists, where are all the religious leaders calling for peace? Oh, how about on the back of all America's currency? In God we trust. What God are you talking about?
Well, I'll tell you what's happening, Gerald. You said it. And the studies are there. People digitally think that's the real world. They watch so much entertainment. War in Ukraine, war in the Middle East, war with China, even though it's all being set up and already rolling forward, the dominoes are falling. It's like some hypothetical thing, like it's a football game or entertainment. People don't know how little the world is. They don't know there are Russian submarines in the Atlantic. They can vaporize all our eastern cities in 5 minutes. And in the Pacific, they don't know we've got submarines there to do that. They don't know what mutually assured destruction is. Don't forget the quote. In fact, pull it up. People don't believe this because he said it a year ago. Remember Sean Penn said, why are we saying nukes are off the table? We can have a survivable nuclear war. What does he know about that? All the real studies say once a little bit of it starts, tactical nukes, tell them in the studies, Gerald, because you advise the military on this. What happens? What's the Rand Corporation say? Once you start using even tacticals, within days, if not hours, you're in full commitment, total nuclear war. Explain that to them.
Yeah, again, Sean Penn. Sean Pencil is a little clown boy of nothing. He goes to Ukraine, tells people they gotta get the COVID jab. I mean, why did they quote Mickey Mouse? Hey, how about what does Taylor Swift doing today? So let's go back to the nuclear annihilation. How about a guy by the name of John F. Kennedy? Everybody can look it up. His commencement speech to the graduating students at American University in June of 1963. June, right? July, August, September, October, November, January. The whole speech was about peace. Now, little Sean Pencil there, because he kind of got pecker like a pencil, or a head like one. Kennedy goes on to say, first of all, he says we should not hate the Russian people, the Soviet Union, the Russian people. They suffered more than anybody in World War II. He goes on to say that over 20 million of them lost their lives, and their farms, their homes, land, factories were destroyed from the equivalent of Chicago to the East Coast. Pennsylvania. Kennedy also goes on to say that if we have an atomic bomb war with the Soviet Union, life on Earth will be destroyed in 24 hours. That's how many years ago? 60 years ago.
And now the weapons are way more powerful.
Way more powerful. There it is. Again, we have maniacs in control. Look at the freak show.
Take the Russian ICBM Satan missile that's hypersonic, Mach 10, can't shoot it down. It comes back out of orbit, you launch it, it goes up, it's ballistic. They shoot it over the North Pole, it comes over the U.S. Dozens of warheads are launched, each one 100 times bigger than what we dropped on Hiroshima.
Yeah. And again, we have maniacs in charge. Look at that little Gonzalo Macron. Look at the little freak show over there. Look at that Sundak over there in the UK. Before him, a little clown that you couldn't, that the best cartoonist couldn't come up with a better one than Boris Johnson. Look at the little freak show he got in the United States. You got a dead in front of your eyes, Mitch McConnell, out of his mind Biden, little Lindsey Graham, Adam Schiff, one little clown, little Chucky Schumer. Look at the idiots and morons running the show. They're going to destroy us. That's our greatest concern.
And the problem is, this is like academic to people because there's a normalcy bias. We've had mutually assured destruction, since the 60s. We've had the age of atomic weapons since 45 in the Manhattan Project. And just because because something hasn't happened doesn't mean there's not a probability it will. And you know the International Group of Atomic Scientists, they've never brought the doomsday clock closer to midnight.
Nope. And let's go back to the Israel war. Does anybody know about the Samson option?
Tell people about the Samson option. If Israel starts losing for all the Muslim states that want to drown into the sea, from the mountains to the sea, what does Israel do when that happens? They nuke everybody.
They nuke everybody.
Tell them about the Samson.
Maniacs in charge.
Tell them about the Samson option.
The Samson option is exactly what you said. They're going to go nuke. We're not going to lose. We're going nuke. Again, you got maniacs in charge. Look what is going on over there. I mean, I'm totally opposed to it. I launched Occupy Peace. So it has nothing to do with Israel or anybody. I'm not anti-American because I hate America's laws. It's disgusting what's going on over there.
Well, you got over 80% of the Jews don't like Netanyahu, but exactly.
And again, let's look at the facts. I'm not a great numbers guy. How many Jewish people are there in the world? 16 million? Out of how many? 8 billion? How many Muslims are there in the world? 2 billion?
Yeah, close to 2 billion.
Against 16 million? You're gonna lose. You're gonna lose. You better have peace. Look, I'm a fighter. If 5 guys come in here, man, hey, take it easy. What can I do? How can we settle this? I'm not gonna fight. And I'm telling you, we need peace now. We got maniacs in charge. Alex, go back to our top trends of 2023. Middle East meltdown. We warned this would happen when Netanyahu became prime minister again, but for the 6th time in the end of December 2022. And not my language with the mainstream media and his right-wing extreme government. This thing was building up. People forgot about the 39 weeks of protests. Hundreds of thousands taking to the streets in Israel. Hundreds of thousands. 39 weeks in a row against Netanyahu's Judicial Reform Act.
And then how, gotta go to break, Gerald, but how convenient that there was a stand down magically when all this happened.
You got it. And they were warned about it. 2 days after it, we put the data, we only put the data in. The United States and Egypt had warned Israel of a Hamas attack.
Stay right there, though. I'm going to finish up with the dominoes falling. How we start World War III, then we get to the economy, the border, Trump, all your big trends. Gerald Celente, straight ahead. Talk about what you know to do now. This is key information. Infowars.com. Again, tomorrow's news today. Junkstrends.com. Junkstrends.com. 29 years on air. All I wanted to do was warn the people about the globalist. And I've done the best job I can to tell the truth and been accurate, and we are on record as the most accurate there are. And I've tried to sell products to fund ourselves, unlike other communist revolutionaries that rob banks and kidnap people. We don't do that. We try to bring you products that really work. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm scared of this product. It's so powerful. This is the breakdown product after your cells process it of folic acid, methylfolate with high-quality organic B-complex. This stuff is rocket fuel. It's not a stimulant. It energizes your cells, and then everything else you take just supercharges it. It's so insane. It's foundational energy, the strongest formula out there at InfoWarsStore.com. It doesn't just energize this operation against the tyrants. It energizes you. Get foundational energy now. I take this so much energy now at InfoWarsStore.com. I literally feel like a Tyrannosaurus Rex. That's how powerful it is. This is the building blocks of how your mitochondria operate. I cannot even take this because it's like I'm 15 again, and I was weird now when I was 15 and could jump backflips literally and crawl up, out like a monkey. Now available. Foundational energy. InfoWarsStore.com. You want to get this.
The other thing, just for people in your audience to know, as a national security advisor, I was also read in on basically the football, the nuclear football. So I sat right there with President Trump when we got briefed on the whole thing, and we had the full lay down of all of the rules and
networks lie to you about what's happening now. InfoWars tells you the truth about what's happening next. Visit Infowars.com/show and share the link today.
All right, we're connecting General Flynn right now on the Lloyd Austin crisis, which just shows runaway train, nobody piloting the plane, into the side of the mountain. It's really got the public's attention. It should. People at least know you can't have the Secretary of Defense missing for weeks into a black hole and all these lies to Congress. It just shows that we don't even know who's running the government right now. So we're getting General Flynn on right now, but I wanted to play this clip to illustrate who's bragging how they control the governments. You can say, well, this is Klaus Schwab a couple years ago with David Gergen exaggerating his power. No, he says we penetrate half the cabins. And if you look at Brazil and Germany and France and the UK and Sweden and hell, the US and Canada, more than half the people in the cabinet are WEF alumni. And they're following the policies. Now, they say you will eat the bugs a couple years ago, and dozens of top manufacturers are forcing it into the batter on fried chicken you buy. Cereal you eat. It's just full tilt. We're going to get rid of the cows and the Netherlands. Boom, it happens. We're going to cut nitrogen fertilizer 30%. It happens. They're the mouthpiece of BlackRock and the ESG and the New World Order. So yeah, they are penetrating the cabinets. And that's who we got to deal with. And people say, well, the Chinese are the worst, or Israel, or all these foreign governments are involved meddling in our politics. But BlackRock controls 88% of world money and investments. And they are the ones establishing the caste society. You can talk about Larry Fink all day and, what his, background is, whatever. I'm identifying who's taking over. We can debate all day what group it is. Let's just oppose it taking over. And we can get people behind that. So here's David Gergen with Klaus Schwab talking about who's hijacked our cabinets.
But what we are very proud of now is the young generation, like Prime Minister Trudeau, President of Argentina, and so on. So we penetrate the cabinets. So yesterday I was at a reception for Prime Minister Trudeau, and I would know that half of this cabinet, or even more half of this cabinet, are former and actually young leaders of the world grateful. Or even more half of this cabinet are former and actually young leaders of the world grateful.
All right, General Flynn, the former head of the Defense Intelligence Agency, former National Security Advisor to President Trump, graciously on a busy schedule, joins us for just 15 minutes to talk about Lloyd Austin. Now, I've been covering this since last Friday when it broke. And people that don't know military doctrine, I'm not a former top general, though, he's number 2 in the nuclear football. And it's a big deal when a president or a defense secretary or even a top general goes in, they got to vet who's under them. And I looked it up. 3 deep under him are political scientists, not even engineers or actual military men or women. So this is so dangerous, and they've lied to us every step of the way. So I couldn't think of a better guest to explain why this is such an issue than General Flynn. General, I would imagine, I never asked you this, if you went in for some surgery when you're at the Defense Intelligence Agency, which is senior, but not even at the highest level, but next highest level, you would get it court-martialed if you didn't tell Congress and didn't have people confirmed under that, just under constitutional issues. Talk about a coup. This is just like bureaucratic idiocy or coup by incompetence, or what would you call this, General Flynn? I would call it extremely dangerous to our national security. I mean, first of all, Alex, thanks for letting me come on for a few minutes here, and I appreciate you and your audience's patience with me. When I moved as head of Defense Intelligence Agency, I moved probably with, there was 25 people at a minimum that knew where I was moving, what I was doing. The Secretary of Defense has about 300. He cannot move, he cannot do anything without read in on basically the football, the nuclear football. So I sat right there with President Trump when we got briefed on the whole thing, and we had the full laydown of all of the rules and requirements and the people that are involved in that. The Secretary of Defense is one of them. This is so outrageous that not even his undersecretary, his deputy secretary knew. I mean, so what this is telling us is that we've got a group of people that are running the national security for our country, foreign and domestic, and I want to emphasize domestic, that are so dangerous and so unaware of their global responsibilities. You know, at the same time that Secretary Austin was out of commission, we were attacked in the Middle East. We were under attack in the Middle East. Many of our ships, many of our men and women who are serving over there, probably at least a dozen times, if not more, during this past week when he was quote unquote out of commission. And of course the deputy secretary wasn't even aware. So when our men and women are under attack out there, and I mean these are big things, we're talking about missiles being fired at our ships at sea, and this is just incredible. So like I said, the Secretary of Defense cannot move without and cannot do anything without about 300 people knowing where he is supposed to be at any given time. That's everything from security to communications packages to the ability to launch nuclear weapons if and when required. I mean, this is so. We're in a place now, and I caught the very tail end of what you were talking about there with Klaus Schwab, because I always like to bring it back around to this global alliance that's formed against the United States of America. When they see weakness, when they see a big piece of rare prime rib in the water, these sharks start to swirl around it. Men, that for the last 3 years we've had nothing but red meat and blood circling in the waters with the sharks. And those sharks are in the likes of people like Klaus Schwab, the Chinese Communist Party, the Russians, Iran. I mean, we are looking at a global alliance that is formed against the United States of America, and it represents roughly now about 70 to 75% of the world's population. So these are not small things. These are not small matters. When somebody like Secretary of Defense Austin goes out of commission and nobody knows it, that's baloney, Alex, and your audience knows it. Everybody knows it now. The next big question is who and when will somebody be held accountable? When will these people be held accountable? That's what the American people.
Yeah, my question to you is, we don't even know who's in charge. And by the way, I was going to use the blood in the water with sharks, and then you used the rib in the water. I mean, this with the Taiwanese election about to happen, with the coup in Poland, this in non-wartime, this would be incredibly dangerous. Just doctrinally, I'm not a general, and I know there's a cardinal failure of leadership of somebody who could advise the president for nuclear war, and then his next in command wasn't told he was having surgery. She just stayed on vacation. The people under her aren't even military people. They're a bunch of politicos. This is frightening.
This is very frightening. These are a bunch of politically appointed people, and frankly, I've known one of them for many years, and he's way out of his league right now. And but you always heard your audience will remember that. Yeah, they always say, well, that we need to get the adults back in the room. Well, I'm going to tell you what, we got major problems. We do not have any adults. We don't have anybody in the room. In fact, they're not even there. They're missing in action. Never mind the fact that the Secretary of Defense was not only missing, but you could use the acronym AWOL, right? Absent without leave. So many men and women that serve in our military that they have to continually report into their commands and into their leadership what they're doing on a minute-by-minute basis. Yet the Secretary of Defense is out of action. And out of action during a really critical global period of uncertainty. And we are facing probably one of the greatest moments in our history of uncertainty right now. I mean, the level of threats and the
Let me
level
put it this way. John F. Kennedy wasn't perfect, but he didn't sleep for almost weeks during the Cuban Missile Crisis. Neither did LBJ, neither did Nixon. That's why they aged so much. I've read the Pentagon trend. They're up 20 hours a day, because they better be. But now they're just like gone for weeks. Nobody cares. How could you even do something like this while you're starting major wars with Russia?
Yeah, and while what I believe one of the last institutions that still maintains a modicum of integrity, and that's our men and women who serve in our military. But we know we have woke sort of corporate leadership at the top, and that includes Secretary of Defense Austin. These people are putting our country in danger by their own personal behavior and their own personal actions. And the fact that the deputy secretary was on vacation, and these people, when you look around in the Pentagon, and you look around at some of the people that are running our Department of Defense right now, it would be fine. Most Americans would be so upset because these people have no business. Never mind being around military, running our military, running our armed forces. This is such a dangerous period of time, and we just saw an example of how dangerous it is with the behavior and the actions of Secretary Austin, his deputy, and frankly the behavior and the actions of the administration over in the White House, and the way that they responded to this thing. Austin should resign or be fired immediately. We need leadership in this White House and in this Pentagon. The last thing I'd say, Alex, is that most people don't pay as close attention as you or I, but Secretary of State Blinken was just over meeting with Abbas, the head of the Palestinian organization. They wouldn't even put up a U.S. flag while he sat there next to him. They didn't even put up a damn U.S. flag. That's how much they care less about the leadership.
Well, that was my next question, because the globalist power structure must be taken so seriously while they hate America, but at every front they erode American power, American prestige. So I know we don't know exactly what happened yet. There's impeachment inquiries beginning and all the rest of it, but does it mean Biden's not in charge? We know he's a puppet. Does it mean Austin's not in charge? Why would he have his whole 300 people do this? Was it his orders not to do it? And then he got really sick. I mean, it just shows they're turning off every default that through all these wars and all this experience kept us safe. They're just going against whatever the previous people put in place that we know led us through a lot of bad stuff. It just seems like they're in rebellion against common sense. I don't know. I mean,
well, they're in rebellion against common sense, but really, and this is where I want your audience and I want everybody to understand. We have power through social media right now. We have power through digital soldiers. We have power through the means that we can communicate on these various platforms and continue to expose these people, expose their arrogance, expose their failures, expose their weaknesses. We need to keep doing this, and we're going to have to fight through this. This is how we're going to have to stand against this, because and I say this, and I mean it. When we heard the phrase "Build Back Better" when Biden was running for president of the United States prior to the 2020 election, the phrase "Build Back Better." What that means, Alex, and what that means to your audience, is that means that they have to destroy everything, and then they're going to build it back better in their image. This is a globalist agenda. It is a globalist phrase. Words matter. Their actions matter. When you see people like Barack Obama and his former, his wingman, not former, his wingman, Eric Holder out yesterday, when you see these guys out making statements and doing big speeches, you know that they are afraid that they've been busted. We have got to keep busting them. We have got to keep exposing them. We've got to keep reminding the American people that we are in a fight for the struggle of this country, and it is really globalism, sort of the globalists out there, these globalists, the league represented by the Klaus Schwabs of the world, and people who are just, I would call them American patriots. I love the phrase that General Ulysses S. Grant, basically said, there's only two parties in this country. Those are patriots and traitors. And that's the way I feel right now, talking to you.
No, I agree. I know you've got to go, but just in closing, as negative as this is, it's really finally caught people's attention that the Secretary of Defense isn't talking to the White House, or they're lying, and they lied about everything, and they didn't tell the White House, and they've got an adjunct that doesn't even know what she's doing and has no military background, basically, and it's just another political act. For people that we always admire our military, we know it's one of the best examples, of American culture. My family brought me up to love the military, and you're a great example of that. But just to sit back and realize that at the tops of our military, closing comment, I don't even have a number on this, but I know they give them papers, they find out who's a globalist, they mainly promote people that are globalists. How many do you think of the top staff of the military are fully on board with the globalists, and just how many are mailing it in, and how many patriots we got?
We have too many 4-stars, but we have, I think the number is somewhere between 300 and 400, maybe close to 4 stars. We had like, at the height of World War II, we had probably like 25 in World War II when we were fighting the wars in the Pacific and in Europe. And, we have hundreds of 3 and 4 stars. I would say of that number, we're probably looking at about 75 to 80% that have drank the Kool-Aid. And that's scary. That's a scary thought. I would say, and I believe this because I talked to enough of them, the rank and file still matter. And the rank and file, the ones that sort of down in the bowels of the deck plates here, and they are still running the engines of our military. And given the right leadership, they will rise to the occasion. But we've got to, like our federal government, our military is going to require a cleansing and a reculturalization that is designed and purposely tasked to fight and win our nation's wars. If and when called, right? And the key word there is to win. I mean, we have got to stop participating in these endless wars, Alex. And people like Austin, he's not the guy to lead. That's very clear after this past week. And frankly, who he allowed to be his deputy, who has no business being running any part of the Department of Defense.
Well, I mean, look, I just sit here and studies history other than the military, but I study and talk to experts like you. They can try to dominate America and purge the military of wokeism, but then it weakens the military. And then even if they're evil people like Stalin against Hitler, they were both evil, they've got to know the adversaries see that as weakness. So they're so focused on Americans and Civil War and beating Trump that they're going to lose to the whole world to more serious adversaries because they're such lightweights. I mean, they really do seem like they're mailing it in.
Now the global, you talk about this, but there's a global alliance that's formed against us. And you can put an acronym to it, BRICS plus 5. Now it's maybe the BRICS plus 20 in the next 3 or 4 months. I mean, this is representative of like I said, I'm not kidding, like 75 to 80% of the global population of nation states that are now formed against us because they smelled blood in the water and they took advantage of it. As soon as they saw this administration start to act the way that they were going to act, they've been acting. And this latest calamity of Paris by our Secretary of Defense just reinforces to our enemies and our adversaries that they're on the right path. They're on the track to take this country over. And trust me, folks, trust me, audience. I'm not kidding. This is not politics as usual. We're going to turn this thing around in another election. We got big problems, and people better wake up.
No, I agree, but here's the analogy you got to go. Imagine you're driving down the highway at 70 miles an hour in a bus, and you look up and there's no bus driver. And then for 2 weeks there's no bus driver. Well, then wrecks, just the people on the bus get hurt. This is nuclear weapons, our entire military, all these wars, and they won't even tell us where the person was. It shows that they are disconnected and just arrogant and need to be relieved from command.
Desperate. And they're desperate. I think that some of these people are desperate, and they do need to be relieved. They need to be relieved, but they're not. Don't expect accountability from this administration. Don't expect accountability from this Department of Justice. Don't expect accountability from the people over in the Department of Defense. They are not going to hold themselves to account. They are not. These people are purposeful. They're intentional. And I want Americans to realize this. This is a form of this is what I say now, Alex. We are either going to be the United States of America or we're going to become the United Socialist States of America, and that means communism with American characteristics. And that's the direction that we're heading if we don't wake up and get people to understand that everybody's got to play a role here in basically the retaking of our country. We do that. We have to do that peacefully. We have to do that constitutionally. We have to do that through our elected officials. We have to place new demands, and everybody out there that has a skill or a talent needs to step into a new role. And the destiny of this country is going to be determined by the people that I'm speaking to right now. Whatever it is that you can do for this country, like JFK said, it's not what the country can do for you, it's what you can do for this country. And right now, people need to stand up and start thinking about what more they can do for this country.
Well, I'm somewhat of a people watcher, and I can just say this has really captured people's attention because we have this mythical thing of the military, and a lot of times, it's true, but just to show that he's asleep at the switch and no one will say that. So I say both Biden and Austin should be taken out of office because it's insane. The guys over the nuclear football are both completely out of their minds. And who knows what's even happened to Austin? We're not even knowing what's in there. He was like deathly ill from this infection.
We don't know. Oh, this guy's taking all the vaccines lately. He's probably done it a couple of times. I mean, that's another aspect that we haven't touched on, but that's for a conversation for another day. The health of this man, who knows what the health of this man is? Who knows where he's at? Have you seen him? I haven't seen him step to a podium yet. He even say, "No, I'm in charge of the Department of Defense. Don't worry about it. The buck stops with me." At least here at this level.
That's right. When Reagan got shot, there was instantly a debate about who was in charge. And now people need to realize that in Russia, maybe you don't know who's in charge, but in a free country, you do. GeneralFlynn.com, they can find your new book on fifth generation warfare and AI, GeneralFlynn.com, and on Twitter at General Flynn. We'll get this video out soon. We're live right now. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
God bless you. Yeah, I don't have words to describe how dangerous this is. I mean, this is complete insane asylum behavior. I mean, look, my wife's out of town visiting her dad who had a heart attack again and the rest of it, so I got a nanny for like 6-7 hours a day. She goes, I gotta get there. And imagine if I got there and the nanny leaves and then she goes take the bathroom and then she comes back out, I'm gone forever. She's 6 years old, she panicked. But at least there's not nuclear weapons in the house. Imagine. You get off the school bus and you go to your house, your mom and your dad are gone. And I'm not saying the military's our mom and dad. I'm saying they got the nuclear weapons. It's all going on. It's one thing for them to oversee the destruction of the border and all the rest of it. Now, they don't care. They're scum. Because evil people are incompetent. And they've hired incompetent people to destroy the country, but they want to control it. No, you can't have that attitude. You can't halfway strangle somebody underwater. You go all the way. And so they just don't care. And Lloyd Austin's a piece of crap.